a complete summary of what just happened between the Trump and Kamala Harris debate. First things first, we just need to clear the air up front. You know I'm a 50-50 kind of guy. Sometimes I'm 51-49, 49-51. My goal in this is to be neutral. I don't have a horse in this race. I'm going to hedge my portfolio no matter who wins. And you know about it if you're using that flash sale on the Courses on Building Your Wealth link down below. But let's just get into the topic here. ABC fact-checked Donald Trump 5 to 6 times and spent extended periods of time on topics that were not really good for Trump. Topics like abortion plans and Trump tariffs or January 6th, which we knew up front would be bad for Trump. We called out those would be bad for Trump. Those got extended time and Trump got fact-checking. This was not a good forum for Donald Trump, but you know what? Even though this may have been a 3-on-1 against Donald Trump, he should have known. He should have known, and that's why he debated even doing this debate. He was considering not doing it because it was being hosted by ABC. He did it anyway because he didn't want to come across as weak. He should have known that this was going to be a 3-on-1, and he did not prepare enough. That's the bottom line. Trump did not prepare enough. After almost every single question, when he realized he still had a minute after making a point, he went right back into the same negative Nelly Donald Trump we were hoping we would not get. The country is in decline. The country is terrible. We're going into World War III. Now, in fairness, Kamala Harris made mistakes as well, such as when she misstated that Donald Trump said anti-Semites were very fine. That's not what he said. He said there were anti-Semites in a group that were very bad people, and there were other very fine people. This is a distinction that Kamala Harris didn't make, and ABC didn't fact check her. Now, I know it seems biased, but again, Donald Trump should have known, and his performance was not rewarded. Bitcoin during his performance, unfortunately, rapidly lost a very important support level. You can see it on screen here. 57,580. You know me if you've been watching me on the Market Open live streams or on the channel. 57,580 is a big line, and it got destroyed when Trump started losing. Donald Trump went into the poly market betting odds with a 52 to 46 lead. He was well ahead on poly market by over 5.5 percentage points. Now, unfortunately, Donald Trump is roughly tied. At best, he's about 1% ahead of Kamala Harris. I'm looking at it now. They are once again tied, 49-49. So the poly market betting odds have said that Trump lost ground here. When it comes to predict it and looking at the presidency, Kamala Harris had a 51 to start. Trump had 50. Now, Kamala Harris has 56. Trump has 47. So far, all of these three different sources are suggesting that Donald Trump did not prepare enough here. He sounded angry. He looked frustrated. He stayed negative. He did not talk about the future. He didn't talk about his specific plans. He didn't talk about how his plans would help the lower or middle class. He started talking about people eating dogs and other people's cats or pets, and he started lashing out at Kamala Harris. Instead of Kamala Harris doing the I'm speaking, Donald Trump tried doing it to her, but he kind of came across as a little bit of a D-bag. I'm talking. Doesn't that sound familiar? He was trying to act like, I knew you used to do it, but I pulled it on you. It came across as cringe. It wasn't a good move. Another time Kamala Harris tried interrupting him, which in fairness, she shouldn't be interrupting him. Trump didn't interrupt her. Okay? In fairness, Trump did not interrupt her. He was professional in that sense. But when he keeps looking at the camera, doesn't even look at her as quiet, please. Well, actually, he kept looking at her, quiet, please. And she's not. It just came across as a little like, ooh, a little aggressive. Okay, in fairness, he's being interrupted. I get it. But the big point of this debate was to get under Donald Trump's skin. Harris needed to get under Donald Trump's skin. She did. The whole point for Harris was not to come across as a Hillary Clinton, as a vile woman. She didn't. She came across as shocked by Trump's extremism and, hey, I'm just trying to talk about the future. She focused on hope, the future, and people say she doesn't have a plan. But I thought because she knows that's one of her weaknesses, her very first words out of this debate were, My plan is to bring up the middle class, the aspirations of the middle class, the opportunity economy. I have a plan. We have a shortage of homes and housing. We know the young families need support. We want to extend a $6,000 child tax credit, $50K tax deduction to small businesses. We want to start with policies, and then goes into the Trump tariffs. Trump didn't counter with things he should have countered with, like, hey, well, what about the extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act and how many people that's going to help, how many businesses that's going to help? He did talk about how the stock market was higher when he left office than before, despite the pandemic. So in fairness, he did reference the stock market, but he didn't talk directly to how that middle and lower class was really going to benefit from some of the Trump policies. And I think that was a weakness by Trump. Now, Trump did defend his tariff policy pretty decently. He argues that, look, the tariffs are not going to be paid by Americans. They're going to be paid by China or other countries that are ripping us off. Kamala Harris cites that the average American family is going to have to pay nearly $4,000 more per year under Donald Trump's tax plan, but that estimate is put together by a left-leaning organization. A more centrist organization puts that estimate at maybe $1,900, but says it's also really hard to say because what if those policies lead to more American growth? But these are things Trump should be saying. Unfortunately, he didn't, because he didn't come as prepared as he should have been for this. This is the only debate we're going to see between these two, and this is by far the most important moment in this election post the Biden disaster. Harris at the beginning clearly came across as nervous, and I thought she actually made a mistake by making a lot of faces and eye rolls at the beginning. She chilled out really fast. It's obvious she started nervous. Donald Trump is on his 7th presidential debate. Kamala Harris is on her 1st. Of course she started nervous. Kamala Harris did bring up Donald Trump is going to implement the Book of Grievances, Project 2025. We know Donald Trump denounces Project 2025. Democrats hate Project 2025, so of course Democrats say Trump is going to do Project 2025. Trump says he doesn't, or doesn't plan to do that. Kamala Harris bags on Trump's economy. Trump, in fairness, defends and says we got hit by a once-in-a-100-year pandemic. Harris says Trump has no plans for you. It's just tax cuts for the rich. Even Goldman Sachs says I'd be better for the economy, she says. This is true. Goldman Sachs does give Harris an edge because of those green jobs, those manufacturing jobs, and the stimulative aspect of the liberal policies. Now, in fairness, you could probably also make an estimate that more tax cuts could also lead to more job creation, but we didn't get that analysis from Goldman. Trump says she doesn't have a plan. She just copied Biden's plan. And if they didn't like the tariffs we had, why didn't she remove the tariffs when she was working with Biden? Honestly, strong argument. And Donald Trump should have done more of this. Hey, if you didn't like my policies, why didn't you change them? Now, of course, Harris could have defended and said, well, we had divided Congress for a period of time. Actually, pretty much always, with the exception of when she was the tiebreaker. But then you still had to deal with Joe Manchin, who was almost sort of a quasi-Republican. But let's be clear, Kamala Harris goes into back and forth with Trump over China on chips. They go back and forth on Harris's father being a Marxist. True, by the way. Trump briefly alludes to Harris copying Trump policies like the no tax on tips. But here's where Trump fails again. Trump says, she's adopting my policy that people like, my policies that people like. I was about to send her a MAGA hat. But Trump didn't prepare enough to remind you what that policy is. The policy she copied was no tax on tips, but Donald Trump didn't say it because he didn't prepare enough. There was even one point where Donald Trump says, and she's been anti-defund the police for 12 years. I'm like, Trump, if you prepared enough, you wouldn't have screwed that up. She's been pro-defund the police, now he later corrected that. But again, it's these little preparedness things that really skewed this. This was a hard one for Trump. And I think it was a little bit of ego, lack of preparation here. Then we get dirty. And if you want to know the moment this collapse happened, this collapse in the odds of pricing in Trump in the crypto markets via Bitcoin, If you want to know what this moment was, I'll make it very clear. And it was expected. You could have predicted this happening. Abortion. Because as soon as abortion came up, Donald Trump started going off the loony bin. He started talking about abortions happening in the 9th month and how they're happening after birth. Okay. No, Trump. This makes you look bad. This is not what happens. If the mother's life is at risk, yes, an abortion can happen in the 9th month, but that's even true under Republican policies. That's true in every state in America. If a child is born and they are going to die and they are suffering within a few hours, yes, there is euthanasia for those scenarios. That is not aborting or terminating children after birth in the sense that Donald Trump is trying to convey it. And it's extremely rare and extremely sad. And one of the reasons that happens is because there are states, there are about 10 to 13 states that do not allow fetal anomaly abortions for children that are going to die anyway. Children with chromosomal problems that are in the womb that are going to die when they're born anyway cannot be aborted in 10 to 13 states because we have a patchwork of abortion laws after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Those are the problems. This is a weak point for Trump. If the child's going to die anyway, should allow a termination of a chromosomal abnormality that makes the fetal embryo impossible to survive anyway. And so this is a weak point for Trump because Trump really at this moment kind of sounds like he's talking a little bit nonsense. Now, Trump does make it clear that he doesn't support a nationwide abortion ban. He previously has. He's previously been open to a 16 to 24 week ban. He's backed that away and he's like, okay, we're going to leave it to the states. And he's in favor of rape and incest exceptions, but keep in mind, 10 to 13 states also don't have rape to incest exemptions. This is true, and Kamala Harris brings this up. This is true. Kamala Harris says Trump's going to sign a national abortion ban. I don't believe that. I don't believe that he will. I think he's going to leave it to the states' rights. Kamala Harris says she's going to codify abortion rights. Unless she gets both the House and the Senate, she's not going to be able to pull that off. Donald Trump is right here to point that out, that they're not going to be able to pull that off. Okay. Harris, at this point, says, why are people being denied IVF treatments? Donald Trump says, I've been a leader on IVF. This is true. Donald Trump has been a leader of IVF. And so he's realized the patchwork after Roe v. Wade has created issues. He's even acknowledged that it's going to take time to solve the issues. In fairness, this is true, Donald Trump. Then we move on to the border. On the border, Harris talks about having supported the bipartisan border bill. This is true. And even though the bipartisan border bill with $118 billion of funding and 1,500 more Border Patrol agents, this is all true, by the way, even though that was a bipartisan plan, and even though it had problems, Donald Trump did encourage Republicans not to pass it. So it's something that he could solve with a Republican sweep. And yes, that would obviously make the problem worse in the meantime. Yes, that is true. That did happen. Even Republicans say this happens. Then we got Harris talking about how people should go to Trump rallies and see Donald Trump talk about Hannibal Lecter. I mean, this was just nonsense. Trump gets into talking about, I have the biggest rallies. People don't go to her rallies. We'll end up in World War III. By the way, in Springfield, they're eating pets. Kamala Harris laughs at this and talk about extreme. By the way, I got to show you my bingo card. We did get bingo. Let's very quickly, we're going to hop into bingo, okay? I think hopping into bingo here is really good. This was a bipartisan bingo card. I know because when we ran a poll on the channel of who won the debate, we were almost split 50-50. At least when I last checked it a few minutes ago. We were like 51-49 there for a moment. So let's go to the bingo card really quick because I want you to see it. Oh, this is actually the 48-hour flash sale for the Meet Kevin courses on building your wealth. You get lifetime access to meetkevin.com. Timers right there when that expires. Questions, staff@meetkevin.com. No, the bingo card's actually right here. We did get bingo. Congratulations to everybody. We did get bingo. We did have to use the freebie. Trump and Harris show up. We had to use the freebie, so we got the freebie. I mean, we'll take the freebie because usually I don't get bingo. Screw something up. So we got Trump and Harris show up. Convicted felon or criminal was brought up. Kamala laughs was brought up. Kamala says Trump tax cuts are for the rich. Harris suggests Trump is unstable. This is true. Not only did she say that, but also suggested that he gets manipulated. Trump did not say something racist. Trump didn't stay professional. Trump did not signal hope or optimism. Harris did land a joke. We'll talk about that in a moment. Harris avoids seeming Hillary-like. Yes. Bitcoin did not spike. Moderators lose control. There was a moment I almost checked that off, but I'm going to say no. Trump didn't say anything racist. Trump retorts with, why do you want to defund the police? This was actually funny. Kamala Harris says, Trump, you wanted to defund the police after you were found guilty of, 32 felonies or whatever. I was not expecting Kamala Harris to say Trump wanted to defund the police. To which, of course, he says, you wanted to defund the police. Okay, so that happened. Now, I thought Trump was going to shake Harris's hand, but she walked so fast across that stage. She did well here. She ended up shaking his hand and kind of jammed Trump over by his podium. Harris basically called Trump a Russian or Putin puppet. And then I wrote extra credit. Trump retorts and says Putin endorsed you. He literally did that. Trump did retort with that. Harris points to Project 2025. They talk about nuclear. Trump did not walk off. Trump blames Harris for inflation. Trump did lash out. Harris lashed out. They kind of both did. And Harris didn't say I'm speaking. Instead, Trump did, which we kind of already talked about. And then no sort of like price gauging blunders there. But anyway, all right, let's keep going with our summary here. So hopefully you enjoy the summary so far. I think I'm at about 15 minutes, and I think I've probably got about 5 minutes left. Sorry. All right, so Harris says talk about extreme. Donald Trump says, well, I'm different. I fire incompetent people. Look at what y'all did in Afghanistan. We'll talk about Afghanistan later, but we know the Afghanistan withdrawal was problematic. Harris says, wow, it's rich for Trump to talk about crime, someone who's liable for sexual abuse and has a sentencing in November. All right. That was like, I was waiting for her to bring up the conviction, and she kind of brought it out at a pretty good point. Like, oh, it's rich for Trump to talk about crime. That's debate prep. That right there is called debate prep. She debate prepped and kept that ammunition until the best time. Trump didn't have debate prep. I mean, he did, but limited. I think that was a mistake. He should have prepped more. Anyway, Harris says this is the same old tired rhetoric. Donald Trump called for defunding the police, talked about that. Trump says every one of those cases was started by them. I'm winning most of the cases and will win the others. Harris says talk about extreme. The Supreme Court basically said the president would have no liability. Trump says I took a bullet to the head because of them. You can kind of see where this is going, right? Harris says, I actually appreciated this. Harris clarifies her positions here. Whether you believe her or not is up to you, obviously. She goes, I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking. I was the tie-breaking vote to open up new leases for fracking. Okay, this is, fact check, this is a reference to the Inflation Reduction Act. The Democrats were going to pass the Inflation Reduction Act anyway. She kind of makes it seem like she voted to expand leases. She voted to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. But yes, technically were more leases allowed. Yes, subject to regulator auctions. That's complicated, blah, blah, blah. She says her values have not changed. I bring people up. I don't bring them down. And Donald Trump was given $400 million from his father. Trump says, I was not given $400 million. I was given way less, and I've done very impressive things. Okay, fine. It was a small loan of $2 million. Whatever. It's pretty big. But anyway. Then Trump goes back into defund the police. She's been against that for 12 years. He later comes back and corrects that and says she's been for it. Then Trump says, I'm talking now, when Trump was interrupted by Kamala. We already talked about that. It was cringe. You'll probably be able to see a clip somewhere. It wasn't a good look on Trump. Harris says, I was at the... Okay, another moment when I saw Bitcoin tank was when they start talking to Trump about J6, and then they go to Harris. Harris, any comments on January 6th? And then Harris goes, I was at the Capitol on January 6th. Bro, if you could pull that off, like you're one of the senators, right? Like, or whatever, or you're one of the representatives in there, you're going to tell an emotional story. And immediately Bitcoin dropped on that. She's talking about 140 officers were injured. Some died. Trump goes into, well, Ashley Babbitt was shot by a rogue cop. She shouldn't have been shot. Okay, there are people on both sides of this. If you remember the clip of Ashley Babbitt being shot, there was literally a barricade of furniture, a closed and locked door that the window had been smashed through, and she climbed through the window, which is, one of the few windows between where representatives were and where that door was, and there was one officer with a gun, and he shot her. So, some people argue, well, he shouldn't have shot her, he should have talked to her or whatever. Other people are like, dude, they had no idea what the hell was going on. Their barrier got breached. He shot somebody clearly breaching a barrier. That's very emotional for a lot of people. People have different points of view on that. I covered the J6 day live for 10 hours. I saw every moment of it. I've seen a lot of clips even after the fact. And I will say, the media narrative was not as fulfilling as all of what we saw afterwards, right? All of the additional footage, which definitely showed a lot of confusion and some officers almost feeling like they were giving tours. But that Ashley Babbitt moment did not look like somebody who was about to get a tour. So anyway, again, Donald Trump really trying to relitigate the past here. Not focusing on policy going forward. Come on, Trump. That's all you had to do was focus on policy going forward. Finally talk about good things. Didn't get it. Okay, ABC again tried to fact check Trump multiple times. One of them was on lawsuits for the elections. Harris says Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. Maybe we don't have maybe Trump doesn't have the temperament to have the ability not to be confused about fact. She landed some digs. Trump says she hates Israel. I'll end the war. She says that's not true. You'll end the war because you'll give Putin whatever the hell he wants, and he'll be sitting in Kiev. Trump says no, he'll be sitting in Moscow where he belongs. She's endorsed by Putin. I want Ukraine to stop the war. No, when he was asked if he wants Ukraine to win the war, he just said, I want the war to end, and that U.S. and Euro spending dollars should be equal. Okay, yes, the U.S. spends way more than Europe combined. Yes. Donald Trump talks about millions dead because of the Ukraine-Russia war. I think it's closer to 400K, but to Trump, it's like millions. Harris says, I want to remind you, Mr. Trump, you're not running against Biden, you're running against me. This is a strength she has because she can kind of like distance herself from her old policies of Biden, right? Harris says, you're going to hear a bunch of lies. Here's another one. I didn't negotiate with Putin. I negotiated and met with Zelensky about standing up for the leader we should be. I agreed with pulling out of Afghanistan so we could save $300 million per day. And there was not one member of the U.S. military who is in active combat today around the world. Okay, fact check here. Our bases have been attacked in the Middle East like 150 times during the Biden administration, and we almost never retaliate. So we take the drone strikes. Our military, fighters are suffering injuries, concussions, critical injuries because our bases are being attacked and we're not responding to them. So yes, technically, I guess we're not in an active combat war zone, but let's just say we are on the edge of war zones. Look at where our battleships, the largest flotilla we have in the United States, is basically surrounding Iran to the extent you can, right? Because you're not going to surround them from the Russian side. You're not going to go into the Red Sea with the Houthis, although you probably should to clean that place up. You're more off the coast of Israel and on the other side of the Red Sea. Anyway, Harris says Donald Trump invited the Taliban to Camp David. Yeah, he technically did. But the Taliban did also stay outside of power during Trump's administration, and the Afghan government was actually able to function. The moment we withdrew, we left a power vacuum, and boom, what ended up happening? Oh, the Taliban swooped right back in. Oh, and look at this. Taylor Swift just endorsed Kamala Harris right after the debate. People were waiting for that to happen. I just got the breaking news update here. Swift made an endorsement in a post on Instagram. Singer Taylor Swift says she will vote for Kamala Harris. Oh, there it is. I mean, we already know she hates Trump. Is that really much of a surprise? No. Back then, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, says Trump. This is true. Then Trump says he sent Abdul, the leader of the Taliban, a picture of his house saying, and then Abdul replied saying, why do you do that? And Trump says, you're going to have to figure that one out, Abdul. Dude, I have no way to fact check that one, okay? All I know, all I could say in response to that is if you want some serious, sweet, real financial advice about your stocks, your crypto, your real estate, your bonds, your retirement, your entities, whatever you got going on in your life, your trusts, your legal, exposures through whether you even have a family trust, your legacy, your wills. You should be talking to a financial advisor, and I encourage you to go to stockhack.com, sign up for our interest list. We are starting to offer flat fee consulting and financial advice for those of you interested. Just go to stockhack.com to drop your information. If you want us to manage your money, we can. That is a separate fee. It's an AUM-based fee, and it's lower than what I usually see. Usually you see a 1% minimum. We're only doing a 69 basis point minimum. We do have a flat monthly fee, but we don't bill you hourly. This is for your personal matters. We could separately do business consulting, but if you're interested in that, go to stockhack.com to learn more. Donald Trump then says he couldn't care less about race, going back to the racial issue. Harris says it's a tragedy. Somebody who wants to be president wants to use race to divide us. Trump was literally just saying we're not trying to use race here, but okay. Harris then repeatedly says, I have a plan. She's doing this to manipulate people, right? This is a manipulation. The manipulation over and over and over again is, I have a plan, I have a plan, I have a plan. Her plan exposure has been very, very little. She has not given a lot of plan insights. So by repeatedly saying she has a plan, now all of a sudden, she's trying to imply that she has a plan. Trump. She wants to confiscate everyone's gun, ban fracking, and defund the police. Trump says, this was a bad one for Trump. Trump is asked, do you have a healthcare plan? He says, I have concepts of a healthcare plan. That was bad because for years, he said he had a plan and it was coming out within a few weeks. Now he says he has concepts of a plan. That wasn't good. That was not good. Then Harris says, I made my position clear on fracking. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking away anyone's guns. Stop with the lies. Then she goes into, remember when insurance companies could deny pre-existing conditions? We capped insulin prices and we allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Okay, fact check. Yes, Obama passed Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which prevented pre-existing conditions from being a condition of getting health insurance. Now, keep in mind, that did raise everybody's health insurance prices because you can no longer charge people based on pre-existing conditions. Lauren used to pay like $800 a month. I paid like $60 a month for health insurance. After Obamacare, we were both paying like $400. So it just made it all equally expensive. Then she says, we capped insulin. True, $35. And she says we allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices. Partially true. Only some drug prices, not all of them. So a little bit of a fact check here. She slams Trump for his comments about McCain. Harris says that Trump says climate change is a hoax. Trump says that the Biden administration and Harris are allowing car manufacturing jobs to go to Mexico. Kamala could have easily slammed him on this one because the United States-Mexico-Canada Alliance, the USMCA, kind of enabled that because it cleaned up NAFTA and made that a little easier. Now Trump wants to sort of backtrack on that and tariff this. And that's why Elon's like, I don't know, do I want to build a factory in Mexico or not? If Trump's going to tariff it. Anyway, then Donald Trump goes into, the same sort of thing of like, she had 3.5 years to fix the border, create jobs. Why didn't she do it then? We're a failing nation in serious decline. She believes in anti-fracking and banning fracking, and she's going to take away her guns. Harris says, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I just basically want to help you. That's kind of how they ended. So that's a complete summary of the debate. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in. I want to see the leftover poll because I'm sure after my whole summary, maybe people have continued to vote or whatever. But I'm going to end that poll. I have to find it here. Where is it? Let me get that poll. It was, last I checked, it was 51-49. It was pretty split. Oh, wow. 18,000 votes. Oh, wow. It's actually shifted. It shifted quite a bit. After 18,000 votes on the poll, 57% Trump, 42% Harris. Wow. So that shift all happened like during my summary. So look, I just want to be clear with something here. I know I saw some, people in the comments and they're entitled to their opinion saying things like, oh, Kevin, you're not in tune with your audience here. Like, first of all, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And so if you don't think I'm not in line with my audience,
Go F yourself.
Because I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you when I see something that I think is a fact check, I'm going to give it to you. When I think Kamala Harris did a better job than Donald Trump, I'm going to tell it to you. Does that mean I want Kamala to win? Well, I'm going to tell you who I'm going to vote for. I'm going to vote for Meet Kevin because everybody should vote because that brings tax dollars to your region. Everybody should vote. But I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I don't give you advice on how to vote. You should vote how you feel. I'm just going to provide you information. And I need to maintain a 50-50 position on my channel because if you come to me for financial advice by going to stockhack.com or you go to meetkevin.com to join those courses on building your wealth, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I want you to make money. I want you to build wealth through real estate. I want you to build wealth through a properly diversified portfolio that isn't all in YOLO options, that isn't all in on VOO and the S&P 500, and you're missing the benefits of real wealth you could be getting from real estate. Or maybe you're all in on real estate and you're missing the diversifier of stocks and bonds. That's what I care about. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. And I'm always going to be clear about that. I'm not going to cater to one audience because that's what people want to hear. I also have no idea, what kind of bot influences there are out there. The politicians spend money on bot farms to encourage influencers to take down videos they don't like by disliking them or, upvoting certain comments. I don't care. I'm not here for the numbers. I'm here for the truth. And if you like that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for being here. Remember, the flash sale coupon code does end within about 47 hours here. I want everybody in their lives to always be able to experience the following.
Big PP.
And to all of those of you interested in joining, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. I'll be live on the Meet Kevin Market live stream tomorrow morning. I'll be talking about my multi-million-dollar hedge in the course member live stream tomorrow. We'll talk about that. Obviously, as always, you should
evaluate your own suitability.
And
email staff@meetkevin.com. Go to meetkevin.com. Past performance does not guarantee, promise, or imply future returns. Don't sue me, bro.
And so if any of that frustrates you or makes you nervous, remember you could always get life insurance in as little as 5 minutes by going to metkevin.com/life. Paid promotion on the channel. So, to summarize, the edge of this debate went to Harris. I explained exactly why. That's my take. Bottom line out of all of this, to summarize, financial advice, stockhack.com. Flash sale and the coupon codes, meetkevin.com. You want a mastermind in person with a small group of 20 to 30 folks? I think we've got one spot left. meetkevin.com/mastermind. The next one's in a few weeks. And that's it. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye and good luck, everyone.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.